Alright, what's going on YouTube? My name is Javaris and thank you for stopping by. If this is your first time here, make sure you drop a like and subscribe to the channel because I'm going to be dropping a lot of things all from accounting to men's fashion and some lifestyle content. So definitely give me a subscribe on YouTube and follow me on Instagram. Right now, I'm sure if you click this video, you want to know my exact study method on how I passed every single section of the CPA exam and how it could work for you as well. Then let's just go and hop right into it. And notice how I said these things could work for you. Although, yes, these study methods worked perfectly for me, it's not 100% guaranteed that it's going to work for you. However, what you can do is take some of the concepts or methods that I do and kind of make it to yourself. So for example, I'm going to talk about how I use flashcards. If you're not a flashcard person, maybe you can swap it out for notes, etc. But my point is you can mix and match my study methods, but I'm just going to tell you what I did. This video shouldn't be super long. So number one, I use Becker. And no, this is not sponsored, so I'm not saying this for a check, but it could be sponsored. So Becker, what's up? Nah, but seriously, my firm, back when I worked at Big Four, they paid for my Becker subscription, so that's what I used. Now, from my understanding, Becker is the best of the best. Again, this isn't sponsored, so I'm not just saying this. However, this isn't me bashing the other, companies that also have study materials or platforms. I'm just saying I use Becker, so that's what I'm going to speak on. So number two, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I did not read that book. I just didn't. I'm just being honest. So I know some of y'all gonna look at me crazy, but I didn't. However, I did watch every single second of those lectures. Yes, they were long. Yes, they were boring, but that's what worked for me. If you're a person where you can read, large sums of text and really get an understanding of the material, then, do that. But for me, I knew that wasn't going to be very effective. I knew watching the lectures for me was going to be a great way for me to get a general grasp of the concept. Now, this is very important. While I was watching those lectures, I was simultaneously taking flashcard notes of the concepts. Now, I wasn't writing flashcards on every single little topic, but definitely the big picture ideas I made flashcards on. So by the end of a lecture for a particular module, I would have maybe 10 to 15 flashcards. So not a ton, but enough just to kind of like get me started with the multiple choice, which kind of goes to my next thing. After I watched the lectures, I went immediately to the multiple choice. Now, I'll probably talk a little bit more later why I did the flashcard route as opposed to notes. But basically, the concept for me, it just boiled down to flashcards. For one, you can take them anywhere you need to go. And they're just much more digestible information as opposed to a long page or pages of notes and notes and notes. I think it's easier to just kind of go through a couple flashcards here and there than reading like 3, 4, 5 pages of notes just for one module. And remember how I just said I would have, about 10 to 15 flashcards after reading the lecture, after watching the lecture, excuse me. After I did the multiple choice, I would kind of add a couple more flashcards to it just based on some things that I continuously got wrong. Maybe if there was an example problem that I thought was a good example, I may put that on a flashcard or maybe put the concept on a flashcard. So by the time I finished the lecture and the multiple choice, I maybe had anywhere between 15 to 25 flashcards. Now keep in mind, I'm just kind of giving you ballpark numbers. For some, modules, I may have had more. For some, I may have only had 10 flashcards for the whole module. So it just depends, but I'm just trying to give you a general idea just so you don't think I'm writing hundreds of flashcards just for one module. And I know some of you all may be thinking, Becker has their own kind of flashcards, so why make your own? They do, and I do like Becker's flashcards, but something about making them yourself, you can word it the way you want, because sometimes Becker may word, and I love Becker, but sometimes they may word something, it's just like, why would they word it like that? So you can write it in your own terms, your own language, you can write your own examples, and sometimes I'll even still use their flashcards as well, but just still write it. As far as the Sims, I'm just gonna be honest with y'all, how I worked the Sims, it was not consistent every time. I'm just being real. If it was one of the Sims where it only had like 1 or 2 and it was short, then I would probably just go ahead and knock it out. But y'all know some of the modules have like 7 Sims. If it was one like that, I would maybe do like 3, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna knock out the rest when I'm kind of in my review stages or like, I'm just being honest. Y'all want how I study? I'm just telling y'all how I study. Now I would try to complete a module, maybe 2 a day, again, just depending on which exam section. I think audit, I was able to do a little bit more each day, like more modules a day, but concepts like FAR and reg, it was definitely like 1 module a day. Sometimes 2 if it was like some short ones, but ideally, what I tried to do is complete a whole chapter a week. So let me quickly explain what I mean by chapter versus module. So, of course, as you know, let's just take audit, for example. You're going to have A1, A2, A3. I consider those to be chapters or units. Modules is, if I'm in audit 1, it'll be, module 1, module 2, module 3. So I'm completing the modules throughout the week, but in 1 week, I want to be able to finish a whole chapter. So that may have, 5 modules in it or 6 modules. However many modules, I want to complete a chapter in a week, just to clarify. Oh, and really quick before I forget, I'm going to go back to when I was doing the multiple choice. So, of course, when I did the multiple choice the first time through, I didn't get 100 on it. I don't know if y'all are, but I sure was not getting hundreds on it the first time through. So I didn't redo the problems right then immediately. But that's why I was making flashcards throughout, in case there were concepts that I would consistently get wrong or I just wasn't sure about. But I'll explain a little bit more, on how I kind of went back and did those. But just know I wasn't getting 100, right through, and I didn't redo them immediately after because obviously I just saw the answers. Just for a quick recap, so of course I would watch the lectures. I'm taking notes on my flashcards as I watch. Immediately I would get into the multiple choice. I'm gonna add a couple more flashcards to that as I get to it. Then I would, sometimes go straight into the sim. So at that point, I would have just completed 1 module. So I'm doing that module by module. This is important. I need to make that clarification. So at the end of the week, when I finish the whole chapter, what I would then go back and do is now I'm going to start back from module 1. I'm reading my flashcards, I'm understanding those concepts, and now I'm redoing the multiple choice I got incorrect, because at this point, I should hopefully, this will be my second time seeing it. I went through my notes, my flashcards, not my notes. But I went through my flashcards, and hopefully I'm able to get up to that 80% that makes you exam day ready, that gives you the little green check mark. And I'm doing that for all the modules. Now, it should not be taking you, a whole day to do 1 module the second time, because you should be able to knock out hopefully 2 to 3 modules a day in this review stage, maybe more. And again, I'm just giving you some general pace. Some weeks it may take more like a week and a half. Other ones you can knock it out in 4 or 5 days. But I'm just trying to give you some general pace. Ideally, the review is also a part of that week that I say. So really it should be like, let's say you start on a Sunday with your studying, maybe by Thursday or Friday, you're finishing like your first time going through everything, and that gives you kind of Friday and Saturday to review. And again, this is ideally. Sometimes it was closer to 2 weeks, but for the most part, like I said, you want to stick to that about week time frame. And I mean, that's really the big concept. So I'm just doing this week by week, chapter by chapter, kind of going through, repeating that same process. Now, throughout all this, randomly, you should be kind of going through your flash. Like, let's say I'm on chapter 4 or chapter 3. That does not mean I haven't touched chapter 1 stuff since I originally did it. Like, no, I still need to be doing I may not be doing multiple choice questions, but I still want to be going over my flashcards to make sure I'm not forgetting big concepts. So throughout, as you're continuously going, you want to still make sure you're looking at your flashcards. Flashcards don't take long, and that's why on days where I just don't feel like studying, so for example, I may be like, I don't have time to sit here and watch a lecture, or I just don't have the brain capacity. You can look at flashcards. Like, flashcards can take 15, 20 minutes, and that's still considered study. I want y'all to understand, this is kind of a sidebar. I want y'all to understand why you're studying. Just because you're not learning new information, reviewing is still considered studying, and actually you need days to just kind of sit back and review old concepts. But yeah, that really is kind of the gist of it. As you get to your last, chapter, obviously by that point you may want to take a day or 2 to kind of review everything. Then you take that first simulated exam, the practice exam on Becker. Of course, see how you do on that. What I like to do is, actually I'll make a separate video on how I like to review my simulated exams. If y'all want, if y'all do, please let me know in the comments. If you have any clarifying questions, please drop them in the comments. I respond to my comments, so just drop them there. Or if something requires me to make a whole separate video about, I can do that as well, so just let me know in the comments. But like I said, this is a very general just understanding of how I studied while I was studying for the CPA exam. This kind of applies to, I did this for all 4 sections that I took. So I took them all, and I kind of used the same methodology of, like, doing the lectures, doing flashcards, going straight into the multiple choice, all of that. So hope this helps. I will probably be doing a separate video on specific exam sections if you want me to. But yeah, anything revolving the CPA exam, studying, all of that, if you want to make a video on it, please drop it in the comments. I will do that for you. And also just anything about the accounting industry as well, I'll do that also. So thank y'all for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see y'all next time.